Welcome to the Dear Doc podcast, where we will discuss the business of running a dental practice with a panel of experts. Now, your host, Dr. Christopher Hoffpower.
Hey guys, this is Doc Huffpower, and this is the Dear Doc podcast. Thank you for joining us for today's episode. Today we're going to be introducing Corbin Rayburn of Medical Incentives Advisors. Now, Corbin's company actually does a lot of the employee retention tax credits and R&D tax credits, and we're going to talk a little bit more about everything you need to know about those and how you can get Corbin to help you to recover some of that sweet government cash. But first, word from our sponsor. Hi, folks. This is Doc Huffpower, founder of the Business of Dentistry and host of the Dear Doc podcast. Before we go any further, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about one of our fine sponsors, Dentamax. Now, I've been able to land a phenomenal deal for all of our TBOD members and our listeners on the Dentamax Dream Sensor. Before I jump into the offer, if you didn't already know, Dentamax offers high-quality dental sensors. They sent me one of their Dream Sensors to try out in my office, and my staff just raved about it. If you're picky about image quality, Dentamax has you covered. When you get your sensor in, a technician will help you by setting it up so that you get clear, concise images all of the time. In fact, they can even set it to mimic a sensor that you had before that you like the image on. All you have to do is share which one it was. It has a tough, durable housing, and it's backed by a 3-year manufacturer warranty, which is one of the longest warranties in the industry. I also like the thin design. With the beveled corners, it makes it easy to place in the patient's mouth, and it's pretty comfortable. Now, I know a lot of you may be worried, will this work with my imaging software? You don't have to worry there. Dentamax has you covered there as well. Dentamax Dream Sensor works with virtually all software. In fact, it's usually plug and play, and you never even have to use a Twain driver. I'm excited to share this special with you because David Ornett, Dentamax's CEO, was willing to give us a really great deal. All of our members can try the Dentamax Dream Sensor for free. That's right. They'll ship it out to you and let you use it for 2 weeks. In fact, they'll even have their technician dial it in on your systems to make sure it looks as good as possible. Now, all you have to do to get this offer is go to dentamax.com/TBOD. But guys, that's not it. Dentamax is going to give you $3,000 off of their retail price, plus a $200 discount above and beyond that, just for being a member of this community. So you can get a size 1 sensor for just $27.99 and a size 2 sensor for $37.99. It's a really great deal on a really great sensor, but you don't have much time to wait because this deal ends on July 4th. So go ahead and go to dentamax.com/TBOD, check out the deal, and celebrate your freedom from high prices. Thanks again, folks. This is Doc Huffpower. Let's get back to the show. Hey guys, this is Doc Huffpower, and today I want to introduce you to someone really, really cool. Someone who's actually helped me and my wife in our practices. His name is Corbin Rayburn, and he is the owner of Medical Incentives Advisors. Now, Corbin's group does a whole lot of employee retention tax credit and R&D tax credit. So since we had a whole bunch of questions about those different tax treatments in the group, I wanted to bring Corbin on to answer any questions that you have. We are live right now on the Facebook channel as well as the YouTube. So if you have any questions, go ahead and drop them below and we'll try to get to them as quickly as possible. But first, Corbin, how the heck are you, man?
Man, doing great right now. It's just been really, really busy, obviously, with everything going on with the employee retention credit and the research and development tax credit, which are the two most lucrative dollar-for-dollar credits. I feel like when word spreads, knowing the fact that the ERTC is expiring, and people really do need to take advantage of it. And so right now it's been a lot of fun helping practice owners apply and claim and get these checks in the mail.
Now, Corbin, for our listeners who don't know much about the ERTC, they don't know anything about the R&D, can you just give us a real broad overhead of basically what they are? And then we'll dive into the specifics in a bit.
Yeah, of course. I mean, one of the first things that I do want to talk about is, there are a lot of misconceptions about, if you qualify for the ERTC, if you qualify for the R&D. With that being said, nearly every conversation that I have with a potential client, one of the first things I always say is that, their business CPA or their business advisor will most likely tell them that they do not qualify for the employee retention credit because they do not pass the gross receipts test. That is the number one biggest misconception out there today. As business owners, we all know that we made more money in 2021 than we did in 2020. Right. So, we really have to throw that gross receipts test out the door. When it comes to the employee retention credit, real quick, we're looking at the time period between March 12th to September 30th of 2021. So 6 quarters. And when it comes to Q2 of 2020 to Q4 2020, practice owners are eligible up to $5,000 per employee. Now, in 2021, this is a big deal. Employees are allowed up to $7,000 to $10,000 per employee per quarter up to Q3. And so, this can be very, very substantial for a practice owner. The sweet spot is really, 5 to 7 employees. I've definitely helped out, 3 or 4 before, but really the sweet spot's 5 to 7. And really anything over that is just really icing on the cake.
Absolutely. Well, I know my wife has 15 employees, or actually it's a little bit more now, isn't it? You know her numbers better than I do.
Yeah, it's 24. Mm-hmm.
I can't wait to see that check.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, it's very exciting. It's very exciting, knowing that this process is very, very easy, knowing we've made it very streamlined to apply and claim. And one of the things that I do have to touch on is the 27 CPA specialists that are actually doing the work, the 10 plus tax attorneys that we have on our team. Of course, they've all been part of the Big Four. They've all worked in the internal revenue service in the audit department. And so, we have an all-star team that has to stand behind the work that we do, stand behind our clients 100% against any type of scrutiny. And of course, we're not going anywhere. And so sometimes I get that, from other CPAs.
Well, that was actually one of my first questions whenever you and I started chatting about this and getting it done for my practices and getting it done for my wife, is I wanted to know if we were going to be safe. And for me, that was a huge comfort zone, is knowing that you guys have these people who worked in the IRS and that they stand behind it, and that you guys have lawyers to make sure if there is a legal challenge that you're going to take care of your clients. I know for me that was huge, and I imagine I'm not the only one out there, because this stuff is scary, and really your hometown CPA who might be doing your books for your practice doesn't know what you guys know about this, because you do pretty much only this. Your scope of practice is limited to it.
Well, and I'll use this analogy every day. So Doc, if you went to your primary care doctor and I said, Doc, you have something going on with your heart. Well, yeah, I mean, your primary care doctor did go to med school, very educated, but I don't really think that you'll want your primary care doctor working, doing any type of heart
Exactly.
surgery.
I'm going to a cardiologist. I want to know the guy knows what he's talking
I want
about.
to go to the specialist. And, kind of joking around is, if I went to jail, I wouldn't call my divorce lawyer.
Right.
I'll call my criminal lawyer, So, I mean, we are the specialists. We're not trying to be your CPA, nor do we want to be. We actually, outside the ERTC, this is going to be a one-time thing since it will be expiring in April of 2024. But when it comes to the R&D, we'll be working each year with your CPA and in conjunction with your CPA each year moving forward after we grab the first 3 years the first time.
Well, talk to me a little bit about the R&D tax credit, because if you remember, whenever I first talked to you about it, I said, there's no way I can really qualify for this. And you started giving me a list of items. You said, you do this. Did you train in this? Did you train your employees in this? So give us kind of a 500-foot view of what the actual R&D tax credit is and some of the things that might key in on these dentist side where they say, oh, well, maybe I do qualify for this.
Yes. So, just briefly, the R&D has been around since 1981. It was made permanent in 2015. So it's a permanent part of our tax code. When it comes to the dental industry, the number one industry is actually construction. The second is manufacturing. And the dental industry is fortunate enough to actually be considered in the manufacturing industry, which is the second biggest industry to receive this type of credit. When you hear the word research and development, the first thing that comes to people's mind, first thing that even came to my mind the first time I heard about it was, white lab coats,
Exactly. Someone up in a lab somewhere.
Right. What do I do inside my dental practice that would be considered R&D? Correct. Well, what we're looking for are the qualified research activities and the expenses that are tied to those. And I'll kind of touch on some of those, but the R&D is going to be based off 3 buckets. It's going to be based off your W-2 wages of your staff, cost of materials and supplies and goods, and then any third-party contract work or 1099 services that you bring into your practice that would be considered a qualified research activity. I know a lot of practices out there that they'll bring in outside consulting firms, maybe to help their staff members on the phone, trying to help patient retention. There's softwares like Weave. There's, things like that help the practice be more efficient. Because the business of dentistry is is changing so much rapidly. It's changing from analog to digital. And so, by going back 3 years, just kind of think about what your practice looked like in 2016. Well, I know for a fact that, a good practice or a practice doesn't stay stagnant. They're always trying to create a better workflow. They're implementing new technologies. They're creating new or improving their processes and techniques. They're testing and evaluating newer different materials used within procedures. Like, for example, I don't know, maybe some of y'all know this one Dr. Tran. Well, I had a full mouth restoration rehab, 29 crowns. And, I came in on a Tuesday and I got my temps and, grinded down my teeth, temps in, and I came back the next day with, all new crowns. But he wouldn't have been able to do that if he didn't have that proper workflow, if he didn't have those technologies inside his practice. And so I use this example a lot Most of y'all might have maybe a iTero scanner. You might have a Medic, but let's just use the iTero for a simple example. What does that do for your practice? Well, obviously it reduces chair time for your patients. Obviously it reduces the amount of visits the client has to come back to your office, makes your office more streamlined, more efficient, and obviously more profitable. But more importantly, who's engaged in just that one specific activity? And we're just talking about the iTero. Well, you have yourself, the doctor, maybe your associate doctors, your dental assistants, office managers, maybe even your hygienists. But those W-2 wages that are engaged in those certain type of technologies that you implement into your practice to be more efficient, streamlined, we can get a percentage of those monies back in a hard form check that will be going directly to the business owner's address that's on their personal 1040s. So it's pretty cool because actually this is going to be considered tax-free since we can retroactively go back 3 years. You'll be getting 3 hard checks that be delivered to your mailbox or to your house. And then you can do whatever you want with those. The employee retention credit is actually going to be considered business income, which will be taxable. Yes, sir.
Sorry about that, Corbin. My mic was muted. I know that you have worked with several of our dentists here on TBOD. And shout out to Mike Tran, by the way, because Mike was the guy who called me up and said, have you tried getting this tax credit yet? You need to deal with this guy. And that's who introduced us. So thank you, Mike. The thing is, I was really surprised by the things that are and aren't R&D whenever we talked about this, because I thought for sure, like all my CE and stuff, and you're like, no, you write that off somewhere else. But did you do this? And sure enough, every single one you asked me, did you buy a 3D printer? Did you train on it? Did you use, 3D printing fluid in it? All these things you started ticking off. And I may be wrong about the 3D printing fluid, but it was a whole list of things. And I was like, yeah, I do that. So it was really surprising to me how much each dentist is going to be able to get back here. I mean, because it's things we don't even think about. We think about them just as the cost of doing business. And I think what you're doing there is amazing. Can you tell us some of the different amounts you've gotten back for some of our dentists, either in my group or other dentists you've worked with nationwide? I know there's some real big ones in my group, but talk to us about that.
Yeah. So actually, when it comes to, and also, not trying to convolute the conversation, I'll start with R&D. The R&D has been really the bread and butter for the last, really since it was made permanent and a permanent part of our tax code. So that's really been, the bread and butter. The ERTC obviously has come around, since COVID hit. But when it comes to the R&D, being very transparent here, what we really need for the practice to get a substantial recovery here, we really need the practice to be around 1.1 to 1.5 million to get a substantial recovery. And the only reason why I say that is because the practice will generate the credit. Okay, the practice will generate the credit, and obviously, as practice owners, you guys are an S corp or LLC, and those taxes pass down to your personal 1040s. So ultimately, what we're doing here is we're recovering profits from overpaid taxes by utilizing Section 41, which is the research development tax credit. And so, the cost, and I do again have to lay my hat on these CPAs And these tax attorneys, the cost just to get the work done, it's not cheap. They are very, very high end, and this is what they do. And so we really need, there's a certain threshold there where obviously, y'all are practice owners, y'all are business owners. So we really need that practice just to be around 900,000 and to 1.3 at least. And obviously we can go back 3 years the first time, so we can combine those 3 years together. And then moving forward, which is the great thing, is that, we'll be working in conjunction with your CPA, and we'll be providing him a form called 6765, and we'll do a timely return, which means that we will never have to amend again. You will never have to wait for your checks for 12 to 16 weeks to get, in your mailbox. And you'll actually receive those monies ASAP, which will be taking away your tax liability that current year. And so, you'll be starting to make this part of your practice each and every year moving forward. For example, you'll say, Corbin, hey, we're about to file 2021. Can you do the same thing you did last year and provide my CPA form 6765? And what he'll do is he'll input those R&D calculations into when he's filing your returns. It's called a timely return. And then you'll receive those monies ASAP, which will take away your tax liability for that current year.
Do you feel like you are wasting your time and money marketing your dental practice? The fact is, most marketing companies are not focused on your best interests. They focus on their profit. At Art of Dental Marketing, our engagements are month to month, allowing you a low risk and foundational level to build trust as we build real solutions. Right now, TBOD members can enjoy exclusive discounted pricing on our ultra-fast websites and local SEO services. Visit us online at artofdentalmarketing.com or call us at 913-214-8502.
So Corbin, you brought up cost and what it costs you guys to do these. Let's talk a little bit about the way that you guys get paid. And then I'd actually like to go into some hard numbers from some case studies for dentists that you guys have done this for. Yeah.
So, why don't I just start off with this, the process, and then that will lead into the cost.
Okay.
So our process is very, very easy. So what we'll do is I'll ask for the last 3 years of your personal 1040s, corporate 1120s, your P&Ls, and then we have a business qualification form that I'll actually need you to complete. But the good thing about that is since I've helped so many dental practices, you guys are pretty consistent across the board of what is going on inside your practice. So I've made that process very easy, and I in my team, myself, kind of takes that business qualification form off your shoulders, so that I know I don't like doing paperwork. Neither do y'all. Y'all are busy with patients, and I think the last thing y'all want to do is try to figure out what you're doing inside your practice that's R&D, and I have those answers for you. And so when that happens, when we get all the information gathered, we'll send it directly up to the CPA specialist. They'll come back within 3 to 7 business days with what's called a credit projection report. That credit projection report is a very, very concise estimate of what you qualify for. So we're very, very conservative. And so, for example, the credit projection report will say you qualify for $75,000 to $85,000. That number right there, or that range, most likely you're going to be right smack dab in the middle. If not, it's going to be either 5%, maybe over or under that number, worst case. But we're never going to give you a range and then come back and say, when we first came and said, 75 to 85,000, we're not going to come back and say, oh, you qualify for $250,000. No, we do want to set the expectations properly, and we're obviously taking a very conservative approach here. And so once you receive or once you qualify, there'll be, and you give us the green light to move forward and get the final recovery number to the cent that you'll be receiving from the IRS. You'll sign a CPA engagement letter, which clearly states who the CPA specialist is working on your file. It opens up lines of communication between all parties if need be. And then also you'll sign a consulting agreement, which Doc hinted on earlier, where it clearly stated, yes, we back up our work 100% for the scope of work that we do. We have to stand behind you against any type of scrutiny whatsoever. It'll state the fee structure as well. Our fees, once we get the final recovery number, and being part of Doc's group, it's going to be 15%. I'm sorry. It'll be 25% on the R&D. It'll be 25% on the R&D and 15% on the ERTC. And so we only ask the business owner, once we amend the returns, to overnight them to the best address for wet signature, paper process, and sent to the correct IRS agency. They will pay half of that number up front, and then the remaining balance will be due when you receive the checks in the mail. And during the whole process and after the send-off, we will provide the client copies of all the work that we did with a full report analysis that's ironclad, done by our tax attorneys. And then you'll also sign what's called a 8821 form. And what that form does is allows our staff to actually call on your behalf to the IRS to give you monthly status updates of where your checks are. And so we're all on the same page here. Obviously, we don't get paid unless you get paid. And so, we're notified when you receive the checks, but most likely you guys are gonna be the ones telling me that, hey, I got these checks in today. And so it's pretty fun when you get checks in the mail that you didn't have before. And this is what this was made for. This was made to grow, retain top talent, add new locations, to build, obviously expand, or go on a trip, buy a new car, whatever you want to do. This is your money, and this is money that you didn't have before. And so we're just simply bringing the internal resources to get this done.
So guys, we are live. If you have questions, please go ahead and drop them down below. Corbin will do his best to get to them in a timely manner. But I do want him to repeat one thing. If you don't get paid, he doesn't get paid. So they're going to do a great job for you guys. Now, one of the things, go ahead.
Oh, and Doc, sorry to interrupt. And, even in the consulting agreement, if there's any checks that, don't come back, as planned, or if you don't receive any checks, I'm playing devil's advocate here. Obviously, it's stated in the consulting agreement that we will compensate you 100%. And obviously, our services, we do audit protection. You don't have to pay for that. I will say this, And about out of every 10,000 clients, there is, with over 10,000 clients, every 3,000 cases, there's about 8 to 10 audits. And the only reason why those audits come up is usually because of the number is very, very substantial. And then, some states
What you
have
mean? Uncle Sugar doesn't want to give up the money?
right. I mean, there was a couple of years ago, there was a case in California. It was a franchise of Papa John's, and they got, I think their final number was around $24 million. And of course, they wanted to look into it. And I mean, obviously, the thing that we have to do is obviously substantiate, document, do a very, very good job on the front end, so that we can defend our work. And we've had a 100% success rate. But I'll be lying to you saying that that there's no audits that do occur. But we're right there, right behind you, with great tax attorneys, and obviously the CPAs doing the work are terrific, best-selling books. And the good thing is you'll know who's working on your case. Even your business CPA can do his due diligence, verify him, verify the tax attorney. So we're all on the same page here, and we do have this very buttoned up.
Well, a 0.26% chance of getting audited isn't too darn bad.
Well, and it's just when it comes to the medical field, there really hasn't been any audits. It's usually been in other industries, and there's a couple quirky states that, like Idaho, for some reason, they just want to look at every single tax credit or anything. So there's a couple quirky states that they just take an extra glance, but we have all the information, all the documentation to substantiate. And
I just want it to be California as one of them. Is California one of them?
no, it's actually not.
Really?
Yeah, actually not, because actually California is actually much more friendly. It's actually a much more friendly state when it comes to R&D because of the state and federal. Just like there's numerous states out there that you get state and federal. So if I was doing the R&D in Texas, well, my number would be a lot lower than California because they get state and federal.
All right,
So,
you California guys out there. So you're going to have to forgive me for picking on your state, but it sounds like you guys are in a really good position to take advantage of this. So, Corbin, talk to me a little bit about the other side of your business, because in many cases, it was funny because you kind of laughed whenever I brought this up. You said it happens more often than I probably think, but whenever you came in and we started talking, I said, my wife is a vet. Can you do this for her too? And it turns out you guys can do this for nail salons even. So talk to us a little bit about what all types of businesses might qualify.
yeah, I mean, right now, when it comes to the ERTC, I wouldn't really say a nail salon for R&D would be a good candidate, but I had a situation the other day where the practice owner, we took care of the R&D, the ERTC for him, and his wife owns 4 nail salons. Well, I mean, think about, when it comes to the ERTC, I mean, think about what happened to, their business. Obviously, I mean, they were shut down pretty hardcore. They had to follow sanitation protocols. They had a huge disruption of operations. Restaurants, when it comes to the employee retention credit, is number one. I've helped out churches. I've helped out golf courses. You name it. I've helped out. With the other day, there was a casino for the R&D and the ERTC. We've done hair. I mean, actually, I did a hair salon the other day, and I don't think I'll never not. I mean, I think that's my hair salon that I think I'll go to for the rest of my life because I get free haircuts now.
I bet you do. So guys, I want you to think about this. If you're a multi-income family and you own multiple businesses, there's no reason to not look into this because it's not going to cost you a cent unless they can help you. And then you don't even have to pay anything until you get paid. It's amazing, guys. I mean, it's a once in a lifetime thing because it's going away.
If you have at least four, I want to say 5 to 7 employees, please look into this. Just know that we're looking at March 12th of 2020 to September 30th of 2021. Okay. In 2020, $5,000 per employee. In 2021, $7,000 to $10,000 per employee per quarter. So, I mean, any business qualifies. You know, we had that mandated shutdown, we had that partial shutdown, but also, you know, there's one thing that, you know, the CPAs or the business CPA will say, well, hey, I never really was shut down. You know, I mean, I kept my doors open. If you had and I'll use this word here, not trying to be too high level, but in the tax code, if you had a nominal change of operations. So if you can tell me that your business ran exactly the same in 2018 and compared to when COVID hit, then, I mean,
I can't think of anyone who can actually say that. I mean, everyone was required to wear masks. Everyone was required to do all of these things that we'd never had to do before. So I can't imagine a single business that was untouched by this.
Well, think about the uptick of about 15 to 20% of your wages that you have to pay your staff members. I mean, I can kind of go down look down the street or drive down the street, and people are offering $25 an hour just for a Pizza Hut driver.
And you said a nominal change. All of you guys out there who had hygienists who left or are having a difficult time getting hygienists to replace people who left, that's a change in your business model.
Right.
You need to be looking into this.
Well, think about your outside labs. Think about when you're doing complex cases and procedures. Think about the turnaround time of, those turnaround times. They were affected, supply chain issues, from latex gloves being $5 before to 16 to 20. I mean, everything's gone up. Inflation's gone up. The foot traffic, patients were scared to come back in the office. And so, me being in Dallas, Doc, you being in Houston, other states got hit a lot harder. When it came to COVID, they had different, mandates. And so demographically, I would say California, West Coast, great states for the ERTC. East Coast, great states for ERTC. I was at a conference not too long ago, about a month and a half ago in Chicago. Everyone's still wearing masks. Everyone. So it's just things are different in different parts of the country. And so this is something that you just need to investigate. And it's very, very simple. Another misconception that your business CPA might say is that, well, you took PPP1 and PPP2, it was forgiven, you don't qualify. That's where I go back to the Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2021, which means that when they passed that, it enhanced the employee retention credit so that even if you did take PPP1 or PPP2, you're still eligible for the ERTC to apply and claim. So if you can walk away from anything here, yes, we all made more money in 2021. You most likely do not pass the gross receipts test, but you do pass by the mandated or full or partial shutdown or nominal disruptions of operations of 10%.
Fantastic. Well, Corbin, I want to say thank you for joining us today and bringing some of this information to our group. We've had a whole lot of questions about it. If people want to reach out to you, and by the way, I'd also like to say in full disclosure, Corbin and his company are sponsors of the Dear Doc podcast, and they have been sponsors at some CEs that we've done before, which was fantastic, by the way. It was great to get to hear all this stuff there, and I believe you'll be at the next one. So
Yeah.
you'll get to be able to see him talk in person, get to ask him his questions in person. But if you do have other questions between now and then, and you want to move on this, or you just want to find out if it's a right fit for you, you can contact Corbin at.
Contact me at, you can either go to my website, www.medicalincentiveadvisors.com. So www.medicalincentiveadvisors.com. And I'll actually give Doc a nice landing page. And Doc, I think I already have that for you. A nice little landing page where all I have to do is just fill out the information. And you can, just set up a time on my Calendly, on my schedule, and for an intro call. It'll only be 15 minutes, just so I can properly introduce myself, and we'll just go from there.
Fantastic. And folks, the link to Corbin's webpage is right up above this video, right up there. So if you just go ahead and click on that, and please tell them that you heard about them from here at TBOD. As I said, they have been sponsors of the podcast, and we want to make sure that they know that, sponsoring us is a great thing to do for their company too. So have a great day. I hope that you guys learned something new. And Corbin, it's always just a lot of fun to get and sit and visit with you. So thank you for coming on.
I love it, Doc. And thank you everybody for, taking this time, and hopefully it was very informative, and I look forward to speaking with you and, helping you apply and claim, because when you get free money, that's fun.
Free money is always a good thing.
It always is a good thing. So thanks so much, guys. I really appreciate it.
Well, guys, that was another episode of the Dear Doc podcast. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you for being listeners, and thank you for joining us today. Hey, folks, before I let you go, I just wanted to make sure I thank United Medical Credit for sponsoring this podcast and also the business of dentistry. Go check out their website at www.unitedmedicalcredit.com/TBOD to get a special deal.
Thanks for listening to the Dear Doc podcast, your source for the business and legal questions associated with your dental practice. Don't forget to subscribe to the Dear Doc podcast on all major platforms.